Hal, I'm going to send this as an AVI, so again, you can edit it out any way you want to. What I've created for you here is a plan that I'm going to go through and use the first part as I talk to it as something that you can use with my audio or add your own audio and just use the same approach. This could be for step 2, a sample of a needs analysis where you're determining the need, and then this would also work for step 3 for your solution. Fortunately, it's all I'm going to get done today, but hopefully it'll give you what you need with the other stuff that you already have to be able to put something together for your upcoming meeting. Gordon Harwell has a situation. His client's age 48 and plans to retire in 18 years at age 64. Already a high net worth client earning over $450,000 per year, the client inherited $1.1 million after tax from a deceased parent. They want to buy a vacation home. The client wants to pay cash and invest the difference. The client expects to move to this house after retirement and live there the rest of their life, about 40 years. Try that again. Get the taking it. Good grief. Okay. Try this again. Take 2. Client is 48 and plans to retire in 18 years at age 64. Gordon Harwell, a financial advisor, is working with a client who's just inherited $1.1 million after tax from a deceased parent. They want to buy a vacation home to enjoy now with their children. They want to pay cash and invest the entire retirement difference towards the future savings. The client expects to move to his house after retirement. Therefore, they'll need this house for about 40 years. So the initial time frame is to retire in 18 years and then to hold on to the property for a full 40 years. Gordon knows that investing a large chunk of the inheritance now at such an early age might be a financial mistake. How would Gordon go about explaining that to his client? Gordon Harwell might not be able to answer this question typically. He'd end up helping the client invest $549,000 and the client would pay cash for the home. If the client pays cash, well, that's one solution. Let's say that there was a 100% finance option for this client, just to compare an extreme here. And let's just say they could borrow at 4.28%. We go through and compare the alternatives for the client. The first thing we want to do is look at the financial cash closing cost impact. They're going to save a little money on closing costs because they just pay the legal fees, but they're going to come out of pocket $550,000 to buy this home. Cash needed to close $551,000, cash available $1.1 million, $549,000 for Gordon to invest. But with the right relationship, Gordon can create a comparison through a loan consultant that can help them compare the additional closing costs of about $4,000 or $5,000, but with a higher financing option, the ability to have $1.09 million available at closing. Most consumers would probably not consider this because of the second consideration, and that's monthly cash flow. If I pay cash for this home, I have no out-of-pocket. However, if I borrow 100%, I'll have a $27.15 a month payment. Now we can address that by withdrawing that $27.15 per month out of the investment account, so there's no payment for the client. But first, let's look at the financial impact. This is a $550,000 purchase, and the client expects to retire in 18 years. If over an 18-year period, you could show the client a $406,000 savings, you just reduce the cost of that home by $406,000. How's that possible? Well, see, if the client doesn't pay cash for the home, he'll have $459,000 to invest. And to be fair, he doesn't have to make a $2,715 payment each month. So he could give that to the financial advisor. And based on an 18-year time period with that money growing at 6.9% and the house appreciating at about 2% a year, they'll have a net wealth of about $2.1 million. That savings balance will grow to over $3 million, and that's pretty exciting. But based on the time value of money, if I could have invested that $1.9 million up front and then taken the $27.15 a month I would have paid to my investment and apply that towards my mortgage interest, I can see here that my savings account grows to $3.7 million. So even though I paid higher payments, 1.6 versus 1.1 million, I actually have a positive wealth impact of $406,000. So over an 18-year time period, I was able to save $406,000 by understanding the power of and leverage of borrowing smart. For Gordon Harwell and the client, $400,000 is no small amount of money, but the 18-year time period was the time period that Gordon expected to have that client living in the house. The client then intended to live there through retirement over 40 years. So Gordon can also have an analysis that goes out the full 40-year time period to show the time value compounding of that money. Remember, if that client put $549,000 into the account and invested $215 a month, they would only be able to do that until the actual loan was paid off. Once the loan was paid off, they would no longer have that savings to continue to invest. So the $549 and the $2715 would compound and grow to about $9.9 million over a 40-year time period. A pretty cool amount of money to grow over time. But that $1.09 million stays invested for the entire 40 years. If I look at that over the time period of compounding, that money would grow to over $18 million, a difference of $7.5 million over the life of the loan. So the compounding and doubling of money means that this is not a $400,000 decision for this client, it's a $7 million decision over the life of the time that they'll use this house as an asset.